I don't think people have had high hopes for Tesla recently. Between Elon Musk's Trump fallout, the EV tax credit rolling back, and their sales dropping dramatically in Q1, it's just been one bad thing after another for the company. And now the news is even worse because sales have dropped off for the second quarter in a row. CNN starts us off today. Tesla reports another record sales plunge. Tesla reported another record sales plunge on Wednesday as brand damage from CEO Elon Musk's political activities and increased competition continue to batter the once fast-growing electric car maker. Because of course sales went down. We see this over and over where a company is doing fine and then for some reason they decide that it is their responsibility to become politically involved, and that always comes back to bite them. Unless of course they're a company that was established on political ideology for some reason, but think about like Target. They got politically involved, ticked off everyone, and now they're suffering for it. It's the same with MyPillow. They got politically involved, ticked off everyone, and now they're suffering for it. And now Tesla is the third in a long and proud line of companies that for some reason decided politics was more important than business and is now paying the price. Now, as for specifics about how the company is doing, we can look here. Tesla reported that it sold 384,000 cars in the quarter, down nearly 60,000 cars or 13% from the total sales a year ago. That marks the largest year-over-year drop in sales in the company's history. However, that number is up 14.1% from its first quarter total, meaning the second quarter was bad, but like the first quarter was absolutely abysmal. Despite the sales drop, shares of Tesla opened up nearly 4% in Wednesday following the report. That's because it exceeded some analyst forecast for a much larger plummet. Now, I think Tesla's stock being out of line with news and reports about Tesla is pretty par for the course. But what's not par for the course is this huge drop happening again for the second quarter in a row, especially for a company that for years and years did really well and constantly grew. And this drop means that 4 out of the last 6 quarters have been a shrinkage for the company. You can see Q1 2024, the sales went down. Q2 2024, the sales went down. And then Q3 was actually pretty good. Q4 was up just a tiny percent, but almost basically flat. Then Q1 of 2025 is bad. And then Q2 of 2025 is also really bad. And even accounting for the fact that they did grow in the second half of 2024, this growth is not only really small, but it does not even begin to make up for even a single quarter of shrinkage in any of these others. Now, in the first quarter of 2025, when the deliveries first dropped, Tesla said that that was expected because they were shutting down factories in order to revamp the line to be able to make their new Tesla Model Y SUV, which they said would become a better selling car and be good for the company in the future. They talk about this here. During the quarter, Tesla faced planned partial shutdowns in some of its factories that allowed the company to upgrade manufacturing lines to start producing a redesigned version of its popular Model Y SUV. And they leaned really heavily into this narrative, even including it on their shareholders delivery report, where they talked about the fact that they had shut down some factories and as a result that they had lost some sales off of it. And when I first covered that Q1 report and talking about how bad it was for the company, there were a lot of people that were upset at me in the YouTube comments saying that I was being ungracious towards the company, and the reason that they had lowered sales and the deliveries was because of that. Here's the general sentiment of the people that were upset. 65% of Tesla car sales are Model Y. They only make 2 mass volume products. They shut down production for 45 days, which is actually not true. It was 23 days, while stopping production of the old model and retooling for the new Model Y. They also sold the first new Model Y in China at the end of February, the best-selling car in China, which is also not true. The world's biggest car market is March, which may or may not be true. Model Y, give your head a wobble and stop lying. Now, through this semi-incoherent rant, we can generally see that people who are bullish on Tesla believe that that was a fluke because they were retooling the manufacturing lines, and it was going to be a better Q2. Except it absolutely definitely wasn't a better Q2 because we saw that sales dropped a further 13.5%. The Model Y is now fully in production and available for sale, and the sales still decline. And as bad as that is, it's probably going to get even worse. See, Trump and Elon are still beefing online. The EV tax credits are still disappearing in September. We still have tariffs that are going to come in and cause it to be more expensive to import the parts, and also competition in China specifically, which is a huge electric vehicle market, is continuing to heat up as BYD is releasing more, better, cheaper cars. We're going to talk about all of that, but before we do, if you like this kind of video, I post 2 or 3 times a week, and I'd love a subscription. Since I don't really like recapping internet beef or drama, I'll just give you the quick rundown. Basically, Elon got mad about the big beautiful bill, and so he implied that Trump was on the Epstein's list. Trump then, of course, got mad at Elon Musk, and they beefed for a while, Elon posting on Twitter and Donald Trump posting on Truth Social. And even though Elon Musk then subsequently walked back a lot of the things that he said about Trump, he had still made an enemy of the president of the United States, and also by association, a lot of conservatives. Now, I don't particularly care about politics or billionaires and how they choose to get butthurt on the internet, but what that did is that it alienated conservative potential buyers of Tesla vehicles. And this is especially bad because Elon Musk had already alienated potential buyers that were liberals. So he has subsequently alienated both sides of the political spectrum, which doesn't leave that many people who are willing to buy Teslas. Now, to be fair, conservatives didn't really buy many Teslas anyway. It was kind of more of a liberal thing to buy electric cars, but the few that might have considered Teslas are now probably not going to do that. You're going to swap to something like Ford or GMC, which are American made. Conservatives were kind of Elon Musk's last bastion, because you can see here that Democrats were definitely not interested in him just anymore. With his recent involvement with the Trump administration, views of Musk are deeply divided along party lines. Republicans are far more favorable than Democrats toward Musk. 73% of Republicans and Republican-leaning independents, including 84% of conservative Republicans, hold a favorable view. This compares with 12% of Democrats and Democrat leaners. Far more Democrats than Republicans have an unfavorable view of Musk. 85% versus 24%. 85% of Democrats hating Musk is like kind of a death sentence for Tesla. Musk's last hope was that conservatives who were interested in buying electric cars would then turn to Tesla because of his affiliation with Donald Trump. But now that he's made an enemy of Donald Trump and MAGA, that's it. That's almost everyone. Liberals are no longer buying Teslas because they don't like Elon Musk, and conservatives are now no longer going to buy Teslas because Trump doesn't like Musk. And this is almost exactly like Target, whose stocks are down nearly 30% because they got political and then upset both parties. But even without this feud, it was going to get bad for Tesla anyway, for a couple of reasons. The first is that the big beautiful bill absolutely kills the EV tax credit. You no longer get that tax credit for purchasing electric vehicles, which means the price of them will have to go up. President Donald Trump's signature on his so-called big beautiful bill was a death blow for tax credits that lowered the cost of electric vehicles. Those tax credits, worth up to $7,500 and $4,000 for purchases of new and used EVs respectively, won't be available after September 30th. Another tax break that's ending lets dealers pass along savings on EV leases. And you're probably aware that when the price of something goes up, the demand, or the likelihood that people will buy it, goes down. And when demand goes down, the sales will go down. And that EV tax credit is actually still available. But despite the fact that it's available, deliveries are still going down. And that's not even accounting for the fact that the price of Teslas in the United States will probably have to go up because all of the imported parts for Teslas are going to be tariffed. The only kind of hope that Tesla had was China. But in China, the competition is going absolutely crazy as they build these phenomenal electric cars that Tesla simply cannot compete with. Tesla's being squeezed at every angle. They might have been able to survive the China cool down with their hopefully cheaper Model Y that's coming later this year, but I don't think they're going to be able to survive a China cool down along with a US and a Europe cool down because he pissed off everyone. Now, I do want to be fair to Tesla and say that obviously all hope is not lost. The EV tax credit is currently still in effect, and the fact that it's expiring in September will probably mean that a lot of people who were on the fence, or maybe we're going to buy a Tesla next year or a couple of years, are more likely to go ahead and purchase it now while they can still get the $7,500 or $4,000 discount. Most likely, this front loading will actually help Tesla's sales. You can read more about it here. The credits were supposed to last for another 7 years through 2032. Analysts think the abrupt end to these federal subsidies will trigger a rush by consumers to buy or lease EVs in coming months. This is going to be the summer of EV, Ingrid somebody, a senior policy director at Plug in America, a nonprofit advocating for quicker transition to electric cars, had previously told CNBC. So we're probably gearing up for a pretty decent Q3 for Tesla as people front load these purchases, but what that means is that demand is going to absolutely tank in Q4 of 2025 as everyone who might have bought a Tesla then pushed up their purchases to Q3, and everyone after that is still mad because Elon Musk has made everybody angry. And even though Tesla says that there's a cheaper model coming that'll be able to better compete with like Chinese models, I'm just doubtful that this is going to turn things around. There are plenty of other choices for EVs now, and maybe they're not as good as Teslas or as pretty as Teslas, but they're still perfectly functional, and also they don't have the baggage that Tesla has. It's really easy for people to now choose a company besides Tesla to purchase their electronic vehicles at because every company has an electronic vehicle line. So again, expect a really good Q3 followed by an absolutely terrible Q4 for Tesla. Thanks for watching.